The silence of the gray foggy morning at Qinghuan Peak was destroyed by the rhythmic knock of an ancient axe and heavy breathing. A young woodcutter named Liu Bai, without slowing down, furiously cut the logs, and with a share of detachment and resentment towards the whole world, he thought about his fate. Having completely exhausted himself, the man sat down on a nearby log and thought indifferently that today he had chopped especially a lot of firewood. The whole valley was covered with even stacks of stacked logs, more than 3 million in total, which seemed to prop up the cloudless sky. Leo received the title of the Holy Chopper of Wood for a reason. Few people over the past few decades have achieved at least half of its results. The fate of the young man was not simple. Initially he lived carefree on Earth, but when he got to Qinghuan Peak, it was as if he had been reborn into another person, becoming more cynical, indifferent, but also definitely stronger. In a previous life on Earth, thanks to the talent show, Leo became the best in the stream, but due to his refusal to obey the agency, he was in the shadows for a long time and, having received neither work nor recognition, was mired in depression. Having been reborn, the young man entered the Yunhuan Academy and became a teacher in the runes department. Over time, Leo got used to the new world for him, decided to start a new life, earn respect, and become the best. But who would have thought that the educational system at his faculty outwardly implies the monotonous cutting of firewood and stacking it into towers? Having accepted the rules of the game in his new life, Master Bai worked like hell, received the title of saint, but, clutching the hated firewood in his hands, he constantly thought that he had never reached the easy level. Suddenly firewood fell from above and the voice of the messenger of the Magic Academy was heard, addressed to the master. Instructor Liu Bai turned around and looked indifferently at the man who was defiantly destroying the collected stacks of firewood as he went downstairs. The guest said that the elder informs the heads of all faculties in the beginning of the Mountain Palace exam and orders the master to come there and recruit students. Having said goodbye dryly, Leo angrily hit the logs. He did not like meeting colleagues, and the uninvited guest, flying away, thought that such a magically weak head of the Faculty of Runes would never recruit students. The man's eyes reflected doom, because he knew that even if he came to the exam, none of the applicants would want to become his student. But bad thoughts did not torment the master for long and, taking an axe, he went into the abyss to hunt for dragons. The recruits square was full of people. The academy was the most popular institution in the country and everyone wanted to study here. Outland swordsman Mike Jian, head of the sword department, vainly surveyed the huge line of people wanting to enroll with him and boasted to his colleagues that he had already recruited more than 500 students. At the table of the head of the Faculty of Runes, where not a single one approached, the rectors of the faculties looked with pity and anger. Everyone wanted to get the best villas on the faculty's territory at Qinghuan Peak and did not like its rector. But if everyone was silent, Mike loudly announced that Master Bai was completely out of control and not only was not recruiting students, but also did not deign to come to the general exam. The director of Qinhong Academy sternly noted that Master Bai had lost everything he had and had spent 10 years trying to overcome the first stage. The heads of the departments were surprised to learn that all these years Master Bai had worked to protect the entire academy. Mike immediately noted that the master's contribution to the defense of the academy would never be forgotten, but he could not teach. It was proposed to dismiss Leo from the faculty, but allow him to live at Qinghuan Peak. Suddenly, everyone heard the voice of Instructor Bai, who walked out into the examination area with a slightly tired gait with an unusual object in his hands. Pointing disdainfully at the snake, his colleagues laughed at the fact that it was quite humiliating to get injured from an encounter with a snake, to which the young man cynically replied that this little reptile was capable of cultivation and almost killed him. There were irritated remarks in the crowd that the snake looked ordinary, there could be no talk of any magic, and only one person watched with interest. A beautiful student girl felt the master's power and realized that he was not joking. She clearly saw that the dead carcass in the hands of the winner really had once strong deadly energy, and his colleagues continued to mock him, reminding him that the master should seek help and immediately take a pill to activate young energy. An ultimatum was given, under which the man would receive the pill in exchange for new students. If not a single student enrolls in the Rune faculty, Mother Bai will have to resign. The master was too lazy to play such games. He knew that he would not find students this year and decided to leave. With a menacing voice, the director of the academy stopped the dean of the Rune faculty, and Master Mike Jian once again drew attention to the laziness and low level of the master, calling for him to be deprived of the title of teacher. Having gathered in a group, colleagues began to insistently talk about Qinghuan Peak. Each of them wanted to get this sacred place for themselves. But the wise director did not stop the master for punishment. The gray-haired old man, looking into his eyes, asked his opinion on resignation. Leo spread his hands and replied that he didn't mind doing nothing, but wanted to stay living at the peak. The director interrupted all disputes with a gesture, called for silence and began to voice the decision to dismiss the instructor of the Faculty of Runes. Master Liu Bai, who has not received a single application from students over the past 10 years due to his low level, has no right to teach. This sounding sentence alarmed Leo. Stop! This word thundered across the examination area. A young student came forward and announced her desire to transfer to the Faculty of Runes. She was incredibly beautiful, fragile in appearance with long hair and amazing huge eyes. Everyone was shocked by what happened and immediately began to ask whether the girl was aware of herself when making such a decision. Liu Bai is trash, he no longer has the right to teach. Being his student is like being a maid. Such offensive phrases flew at the girl. Master Mike Jian guaranteed the student a special position if she chose fencing. In response, the girl walked up to Master Liu Bai and took his hands, supporting him. He was clearly not feeling well after the battle. The instructor of the Faculty of Runes also called her choice reckless and began to dissuade her, but the swordsman, not hearing their conversation, began to suspect something was wrong. Mike immediately believed that the conspiracy was being carried out with the goal of jumping above the fencing department and destroying it. Unable to change the situation, Instructor Jian could not hide his evil gaze, and even from afar tried to instill fear in the young people. Accusing Liu Bai of meanness and threatening him with violence, Mike said that he had uncovered the conspiracy and finally left them alone. Instructor Mike flatteringly stated to the director that he was letting the girl go, since you wouldn't be nice to him by force, and asked to transfer her to the Faculty of Runes. The girl beamed with happiness and squeezed her future teacher's hand even more tightly, and Master Bai screamed in protest, but no one could change his decision. Looking into the eyes, Leo also asked the girl why she chose him as a mentor. Looking down, the student did not say anything, but thought to herself that she was an immortal reincarnation. In her previous life, she was forced to reincarnate with all her memories intact because her cultivation was not successful. The girl was going to choose the fencing faculty, where, with her appearance and talent, it would not be a problem to obtain more than 80% of the faculty's cultivation resources. But she did not expect that, thanks to the instinct of an immortal, at the last minute she would encounter a real supreme master of the Mahayana stage, who had killed a snake that could turn into a dragon. Even the immortals in her past life could not always defeat the dragon snake. For the girl, it was strange that a person could barely hold on to a basic level and was able to defeat a potential dragon. The thoughts were interrupted by the director's voice, who again decided to make an announcement. By his order, the girl was transferred from the fencing department to the runes department. Leo was indignant. He did not want to see the girl as his student, and the director believed that such a decision would benefit everyone. It was announced that enrollment was over, and students began to leave the square. Swordsman Mike congratulated Leo on being a good novice, and laughingly said that in 3 months the student of the Faculty of Runes would definitely prove herself in the exams. This almost friendly congratulation from the master of the fencing department greatly surprised and puzzled Master Bai. Leo turned to his new student to find out her name, and the girl smiled and replied that her name was Lilu. The master sighed wearily and thought that if he had known earlier, he would not have come, and there would be no unnecessary trouble. The young people left together because the mother accepted her, but knew that he could only guide her, and everything else depended on the student herself. The endless sky and towers made of firewood captured the imagination of a girl who decided to live on Qinghuan Peak and study the art of runes. But Lila was even more amazed by the fact that her new teacher was openly being bullied. She felt that he was a difficult person. The dead dragon snake was proof that with Liu Bai's abilities, it was possible to raise the entire magic academy to the ground. The decisive voice of the master interrupted the thoughts of the girl frozen in the middle of a small courtyard. Firstly, there is no curriculum at the runes faculty, everyone is busy with self-awareness, and secondly, Lil was allowed to come and go at any time without reporting. Thirdly, as the girl could already see, there were few resources for cultivation here, since there were no students. The teacher promised that he would make sure that the new student would not need anything and would receive all the necessary resources, and 2 books appeared in his hands. Leo sternly asked if Lilu had any questions and received a negative answer. The prepared couple flew across the yard and ended up in the girl's hands. The first book is a textbook written by Master Bai, which covers all possible runes and describes step by step the problems that may arise. The second book is practical exercises. Lil just needed to follow these manuals, take his time and not be lazy, but also not try to absorb a lot of information at once, and the master promised to periodically check his mastery of the material. Pointing to the students' rooms, Leo suggested choosing anyone, and if you need anything, contact the Academy's Internal Affairs Department for help. Lilu heard these words in the back. Because of the master's indifference, the young student already wanted to change faculty again, but still decided that she could cope even if it was very difficult. No longer paying attention to the girl, the mother skinned the snake and cut it into pieces. He carefully placed the fillet on the skewers and, as if not noticing the girl's confusion, walked up to the fire pit. Under the influence of magic, a flame flared up on the master's fingers and the damp logs instantly caught fire. Lilu was sitting on the floor in her room when the wonderful smell of food came to her from the yard. The girl instantly remembered that she had not eaten anything the previous day, but she did not immediately dare to go to Master Liu Bai. With the help of a stick, Lilu hardly opened the window, looked out into the yard and inhaled the intoxicating smell of fried meat. The student saw the master near the fire bowl on which pieces of dragon snake meat were being fried. According to the rules of the world, dragons are considered divine animals, and the person who obtains the carcass is obliged to present it to the patriarch. She was horrified. Leo just sat and ate the sacred dragon in front of the surprised girl. Unexpectedly, Lilu realized that she had been cultivating for thousands of years, but had never tasted dragon meat. The girl timidly and as politely as she could, called out and turned to her teacher with a request. Saying that she was a little hungry, she asked for a small piece of fried dragon. Looking up and continuously chewing, Liu Bai clearly refused. For Lilu, a fairly high-level cultivar, this refusal of food was unexpected, and if they found out about it in her past life, they would laugh to death. Seeing her indignation, the master explained even more categorically that she would not receive a single piece of the dragon. Exhaling in anger, Lilu turned sharply and quietly swore at the master and called him a redneck, and walked away. After a couple of seconds, the young man's response made her stop. The hope of finding a common language with the teacher was again reflected in her eyes, and she realized that permission to taste the dragon would be obtained. Lilu watched in surprise as the master plucked off a tiny piece of meat with a skewer. Handing this piece of fried dragon to the girl, Leo allowed her to lick it. Taking a stick with meat, the student heard the master edifyingly tell her that she should not call teachers names. Leo continued to chew, and edifyingly said that Lilu would understand the meaning of refusal when she tasted dragon meat. She didn't immediately dare to try, because the master's words were alarming, but curiosity and the desire to try the dragon were stronger, and the girl timidly licked the delicacy. 107. Tears appeared in my eyes, my whole body began to shake and burn. It was as if a ball of light exploded in the girl's chest and there was a burst of unexpectedly strong magical energy. It was impossible to withstand this torture any longer, because the energy of a small piece of dragon meat was comparable in strength to 6 months of cultivation. Lilu realized that in her current situation she simply could not cope with such a flow of energy, and if she ate more, she would simply be torn into pieces. In gratitude for his generosity, the girl bowed to the teacher, who continued to eat and absorb energy as if nothing had happened. Without looking at the student, Leo explained that this was enough for the whole day, and the lesson of obedience and wisdom not to interfere where not asked is worth remembering for the rest of your life. In the darkness of the night, a magical portal appeared to Qinghuan Peak, near which 2 men with black faces and weapons in their hands were waiting for the opportunity to carry out their terrible plan. Having stepped onto the land of the Faculty of Runes, they silently overcame a high fence and found themselves in the courtyard of Mother Bai. Their target was a horse belonging to the teacher, which was incredibly strong and defeated everyone who tried to steal it. One of the kidnappers began to doubt that they could cope, but the second showed a potion of 1,000 years of drunkenness, which was given by the elder brother and a drop of which would be enough to knock out a monster of the 5th class and below. All conversations were stopped because the kidnappers were afraid of being caught in the act. The door creaked and they saw Master Bai coming out of his house with an armful of hay in his hands. After feeding the animal, Leo stroked her affectionately and remembered that at their first meeting she was thin and small, like a donkey. Now, thanks to the master's care, the horse looked even more worthy than the patriarchal stallions. Having once again caressed his only friend and jokingly instructed him to keep order, the young man went to bed. Meanwhile, clutching the potion in their hands, the attackers came closer and closer to the horse's stall. Leo blew out the candle and all the houses were plunged into the sleepy darkness of the night. After waiting for everything to calm down, one of the kidnappers gave the command to move forward. With a rope, the man approached the pen with the intention of taking the animal and returning it to his animal taming department. A few minutes earlier, Lilu was sitting calmly in her room, studying the books given to her by the master. The sounds in the yard and the clear feeling of someone else's evil energy were alarming. She slammed the book shut and listened. Someone dared to sneak in here looking for trouble was her first thought. Deciding to check everything, the girl silently opened the door and went out into the yard. Lilu immediately saw 2 figures of men standing and looking at the master's horse. Muffled, ominous laughter reached the student's ears and she saw a bottle of potion in the hands of the attacker. A second and the entire contents of the bottle ended up in the water that the horse was drinking, and the suffocating smell of dark magic spread throughout the yard. In order to prevent the kidnappers from harming the animal further, Lilu sharply asked about who sent them here. The robbers were quite surprised that someone other than the master lived at the peak, They had heard rumors that Liu Bai had taken a student from the fencing department, but they did not expect that this servant girl would not be afraid to place them. The robbers did not need the extra noise and they asked the young lady not to pry into her own business and return to her place. The kidnappers did not understand that while Lilu was here, she would not allow them to touch anything, especially Master Bai's animal. The politeness of the robbers instantly evaporated, and the man rushed at the fragile girl standing at a distance. With lightning speed, gathering magic for a fatal blow, he rushed in the direction of the chosen victim. The man hissed threateningly that the girl had asked for it and resolutely extended his hands to her. Deftly dodging the attacker's hands, Lilu prepared to attack herself. A knee strike to the stomach and the opponent began to lose his balance from surprise. A kick to the jaw, and the man flew several meters and fell to the ground at the feet of his friend. The girl's energy, reaction and fighting skill were a surprise to the attackers. Staggering, the kidnapper stood up and said that he was simply distracted, which is why he missed both blows. He was furious, ordered his friend to take the horse, and he decided to deal with the girl and prepared to attack her again and teach her a lesson. Now the fight was going to be serious. The opponents moved towards each other, concentrating magical energy to strike. The forces seemed to be equal. Anger and determination to defend their right to life and fight were visible in the eyes of both. And again, a magical blow of uncharacteristic strength for the girl made the enemy fall to the ground and groan. Lilu's scorching magic damaged the kidnapper's hand and made it burn as if on fire. Taking a breath and concentrating again, the girl looked around. A dirty curse and a promise to avenge their brother resounded throughout the yard. The criminals became angry and stopped hiding and keeping quiet. Screams and sounds of fighting woke up the teacher. Reluctantly getting out of bed and stretching, he went to the window. There was a student standing in the courtyard. One warrior was preparing not to attack, and the second was lying unconscious on the ground. This picture puzzled the master. But Leo was very tired. He closed the window, yawned loudly and went back to the bed. Without looking back at what was happening, the teacher snapped his fingers and formed a protective dome, deciding to figure everything out later. Lilu extended her palm and felt the dome, and the attacker flew away from it. The student immediately realized that the dome was muffling the magic and it was created by Liu Bai. She threateningly told the confused would-be kidnappers that the master did not intend to let them go easily and they would pay for their evil. The kidnapping plan was a fiasco. The men understood that now punishment awaited not only them, but also the one who came up with this plan. With a loud thud, the hand of the head of the animal domestication department, Jose Sheng, fell on the table. He was furious. The plan to steal a horse failed miserably because of some girl. Two students from his department humiliatedly said that the girl was too strong, and they would still steal the horses as soon as they recovered from their wounds. The master generously gave them 3 recovery pills and 2 energy pills each as compensation. Relief was reflected on the beaten faces. The bottles with the drug were immediately emptied. The head of the animal taming faculty decided to deal with Master Leo by himself, and sent his people to rest. A general gathering was announced. Jose Shin was determined to show Master by what happens to those who offend one of them. Suddenly, one of the students turned to the master and began to explain that it was impossible to speak openly now. It was the animal taming faculty that encroached on instructor Leo, and if he reports what happened, they will be punished. Leave everything as it is and ask for the beating of 2 students. The head of the faculty categorically disagreed with this. The cunning student suggested taking revenge openly, and being the first to blame Lila for the attack, slightly changing the chronology of events. It was necessary to act wisely, the conspirator continued, and say that she was the first to attack them, and if the victims spilled the beans, then the showdown would only be between Jose Shang and Liu Bai. When the time comes, the conspirators decided to frame the student of the Faculty of Runes and force the master to choose between her and the horse. The dawn sun illuminated Qinghuan Peak. Nature rained down, greeting the people living here with familiar sounds and smells. Instructor Bai, as usual, left his house at dawn and stretched his stiff muscles. He was so used to silence and loneliness that when a young student called out to him, he stepped back in surprise. Lilu, unlike the master, did not get enough sleep and, having greeted him sluggishly, barely moving her feet, she followed him to the area for chopping wood. Having started the usual chopping of wood, Leo first asked if the girl had read the books he gave her. Lilu was noticeably shy. She spent the whole night trying to understand the materials in the textbooks. The girl read and mastered quite a bit, only half of the book, until her energy ran out and her eyes stopped focusing on the text from fatigue. In addition, she hardly mastered and remembered half of the first page, but she decided to remain silent about this. The master insisted. He wanted to find out how much of what the student really understood, and promised not to reprimand her in any case. Still fearing punishment from the teacher for understanding only half a page from the valuable book offered for study, and ashamed to call herself the reincarnation of an immortal, Lilu still confessed. The master froze with an axe in his hands when he heard about such successes of his new student. He even asked her to repeat what she said to make sure he didn't mishear. Having once again asked for forgiveness for disappointing the master, Lilu was about to go back to her room. But Leo, on the contrary, was pleasantly surprised by the girl's abilities, and even smiled slightly at her. He thought that Lilu would master no more than 1 or 2 sentences, but thanks to his efforts, talent and sleepless night, the result significantly exceeded expectations. The student suddenly realized that the master doubted her talent, and that is why he did not expect high results. But in fact, what Lilu did was a very high standard of mastering the material, because the book contained runes and seals personally invented by the master. Despite the fact that knowledge of runes and seals is mandatory, there is no need to rush to study them. The master continued to instruct. He gave a token with which the student could visit the academy's library, as well as borrow various techniques. If you increase the level of this token, you can move to a higher level and find better techniques. There are 2 ways to do this. The first is to complete the tasks of the sect. The second is to participate in various tests for students. Delighted by the trust shown, Lilu promised to do everything possible to become one of the best. But what is better, is a sect token or a teacher's book? The girl thought about this later. Having lived tens of thousands of years in her past life, Lilu mastered dozens of magical techniques. Studying them was always boring for her. A token and lousy techniques from a random sect were of no value to a reincarnated immortal. But the knowledge in the teacher's book is enough for a lifetime, and there is no point in wasting time studying other unnecessary things. While the girl was thinking, Master Bai stopped chopping wood and now stood and peered into the distance, as if he had sensed someone's presence. Voices outside the gates called out to Lila to condemn and punish her for her nightly deed. Lilu told the teacher that last night some intruders came by to mock their peak, and she taught him a lesson. She often behaved rudely, and her rebellious behavior brought with it troubles and misunderstandings from others. Leo assured her not to worry about it, promising to take charge and take care of everything while she should focus solely on her studies. Offering to inspect the situation outside the premises, he invited us to assess the situation from the outside. At this time, a lot of people gathered in front of the portal, creating tense anticipation. Everyone stood in tense anticipation, their eyes directed towards the portal, in anticipation of the appearance of the girl and her teacher. And then, in a split second, everything happened. The girl and the teacher appeared before the eyes of those waiting. A guy named Song Lan was waiting for them. He said that last night the punishment room received a message that Lilu deliberately injured other students, violated the rules of the academy. They are here to investigate this matter. The dream told the teacher to hand over the girl to them. Leo noticed that a lot of people had gathered in front of them, and this could not help but attract his attention. Then, together with the student, they decided to move closer to get a better look at what was happening. Also standing with Sun was Jackson, who said that they also had evidence, and again asked the girl to come with them. Leo noticed a guy disappearing into the shadows at the back edge and turned his attention to him. The 2 students from the beast-taming faculty who appeared at night turned out to be the ones who intended to cause trouble. The teacher asked what actions they took against the students. The 2, deep in their thoughts, accidentally ended up on the top that belonged to them, and despite the lack of malicious intent, the teacher, of course, imposed punishment on them. The man was skeptical of the guy's statement about the accident and did not believe his words. If this is indeed the case, then, judging by his logic, his student accidentally beat them up, and he decided to punish her personally, while asking her not to interfere in the process of the punishment hall. They were asked to stop because the punishment room already has evidence of his student's crime. If he tries to protect her, the teacher will not stand aside. Leo asked if the man was threatening him or if it was just a passing comment. The guy's face instantly underwent a sharp metamorphosis, reflecting a mixture of surprise, bewilderment, and some anxiety. He began defiantly asking everyone around if they had heard what was said. In addition, he noted that Leo does not adhere to the rules of the sect, and called on the 2 elders to stand up for justice by detaining the teacher. Of course, the 2 elders instantly landed on the scene. They explained to the teacher that they were just doing their job and asked him not to complicate the situation. He was originally going to turn a blind eye to it, but he suddenly realized how stupid their own procedures in the punishment room could be. The elder could not understand how he dared to challenge the decision of the hall, even despite the fact that both he and his student would be punished today. Jackson invited his older brother to join forces and attack together. The guy thoughtfully asked himself if Leo really believed that he was still as strong as 10 years ago. In a few seconds the legendary battle was about to unfold. Leo asked the student to try to put into practice what she had learned during the night, warning her that he would intervene if the situation got out of control. Of course, Lilu, being full of determination, instantly entered the battle, demonstrating her training and determination. she mockingly asked if that was all a man could do. Then she gracefully began to avoid the attacks of her elders, demonstrating her agility and elasticity. The girl continued to dodge elegantly and flexibly, without losing her elasticity, continuing to fight. Luckily, Lilu easily avoided the man's subsequent attack, displaying outstanding reflexes and skill in combat. It seemed that the teacher had already noticed that they were moving too slowly, so he suggested that they deal with them to give the student a chance to put her new knowledge into practice. And as it turned out, the girl really dealt with both of them with ease, demonstrating her skills in battle. Sleep watched in bewilderment what she was doing with her hands, unable to fully decipher her techniques. A few seconds later, it dawned on Sona. The girl skillfully traced runes in the air, embodying her power in mysterious symbols. This turned out to be her unique and powerful way of influencing the battlefield. However, the only thing he couldn't understand was that all rune masters usually create their seals on something before the battle begins, and here she was fighting while drawing a rune seal. Jackson realized that the girl was looking down on them, dominating the situation. The older brother suggested that the younger brother use this position to his advantage. Jackson took advantage of the opportunity and was the first to attack, seeking to take advantage of his position in the fight. Fortunately, Lilu, with her keen senses, managed to avoid Jackson's attack, showing skill in dodging. When they began to attack simultaneously, the girl realized that she would not have time to complete drawing the rune seal. And then Jackson seemed to create an energy dragon. She realized that the current approach would not work, and she also began to create an energy ball in her hands. The girl continued her manipulations, explaining that these were just a pair of fireflies. But after a split second, this pair of fireflies metamorphosed into a huge ball of energy. Jackson, despite his best efforts, still tried to somehow harm his opponent. The way it looked from the outside was quite exciting and acquired the status of a legendary event. Then, to the surprise of the spectators, there was a deafening explosion, throwing up clouds of sparks and energy in a whirlwind of chaos. The younger brother was stunned and could not understand whether they succeeded or whether it all ended in failure. Then Lilu already had 2 energy balls, and she continued to control the situation. She announced that the moment for a serious battle had arrived, and it turned out that these were not just balls, but some kind of bird-like creatures. In the same place where she said these words, after a few seconds, these creatures began to attack the 2 brothers. To their surprise, their faces changed dramatically, reflecting deep fear. Leo at that moment was wary and carefully watched everything that was happening, as if the whole meaning of what had happened lay in his gaze. Snake bile, as a tree attribute, remained inaccessible to Lilu for the moment, until the hour came when he could give her this mysterious gift. He had to travel again to the Chingu Abyss to find an item corresponding to the thunder attribute for her and rise to the next level. They wondered why the younger brother, who had stood aside all this time, did not take any action, given that their presence here was solely related to his interests. He could not understand why Dream decided to respond to him at that very moment. Even the 2 of them couldn't overcome it, so why did they think that he would succeed? Now Lilu, feeling determined, directed her energy towards attacking the guy. Strange and inexplicable phenomena immediately began to happen to him. He couldn't understand why the girl put her rune on him. The heated drama suddenly took an unexpected turn. It turned out that Lila, who seemed to have aimed accurately, was actually aiming at her younger brother, and her shot turned out to be a miss in a world full of mysteries and intrigues. Leo insisted that she step aside, sending her into the distance with his firm command. Leo ignored the student's crime and confronted the police. The Hall of Punishment will not ignore this, they will regret their actions. Leo suggested that perhaps all 3 of them should regret what happened, asking if that was what he thought. Leo then, with menacing determination in his eyes, ordered them to kneel obediently, creating a tense moment of anticipation for what would happen next. In the end, succumbing to his domineering aura, all 3 resolutely knelt down, giving him the pleasure of being in control of the situation. It was difficult for them to believe that a person who seemed to be at an easy level had such powerful spiritual energy that overwhelmed their consciousness. Leo reminded them not to forget that they were at Qinghuan Peak, urging them to remain vigilant and aware of the surrounding reality. One of the guys objected, claiming that he had not taken anything and that the academy instructors had the right to deal with spiritual energy. Sun suggested using what he had in his hand now. A moment later, he felt incredible pain and began coughing, pushing out blood. Or he clearly stated that he intended to destroy Elder Tu's reputation by threatening to reveal some secrets or use information that could undermine the authority of this high-ranking member of society. As for the 3rd brother, Leva had completely different plans. He announced that he was willing to remain on his knees until his elder brother came in person to talk to him. In the frozen atmosphere of the Faculty of Animal Taming, this amazing scene will unfold, where, against the backdrop of classrooms in cages with exotic creatures, a spectacle will take place that will become the focus of attention. Sun approached the vice instructor and began to explain that the fact was that he had certain disagreements with the students that required more careful consideration. After he told everything, the man asked if the guy remained on his knees. He said that both of them could return to the punishment room, promising to take responsibility and settle the situation. Despite the support of the peak, Leo is powerless to resist the one who is at the exit aperture level. The master announced that tomorrow one of the guys would go with him to the peak to free his brother. The sunrise had already arrived, symbolizing the beginning of a new day. Leo thought about how a whole day had passed, but no one from the animal taming department had shown up. It was at this time that he finished his breakfast and decided to go about his business. Once on the way to her place, he felt tension in the air and wondered how Lilu had spent her time since he last saw her. Naturally, at that moment the girl trained hard, trying to improve her skills. Oddly enough, the lying logs seemed to stand against her, launching a surprise attack, and Lil had to use her agility and traps to cope with this unexpected challenge. Of course, she could not understand what was happening, and she became a little alarmed when faced with an unusual and unpredictable test from the lying logs. Fortunately, her reaction was excellent and she easily managed to fend off this unexpected attack. His movements were graceful and elastic, giving the impression of beautiful choreography. Leo noted that Lilu's ability to remain quiet while moving was not a bad quality. The teacher said that he needed to go away, and if anyone from the animal domestication department came here, let Lilu use this seal. Let her keep an eye on this place, he will be back by morning or a little later. The Tsenyu Abyss serves as a residence for the demon race, where the deeper inside, the higher the level of these demons. At the very depths there are 12 ancient demons, before whom even those who are at the Mahayana level tremble. Even this did not stop the teacher, and, nevertheless, he decided to go there. A few seconds later he landed on one of the stones next to him. Considering the girl's current level, the teacher is not sure that she will be able to use the materials obtained from the ancient demons. He just needs to find the Thunder Attribute Demon King and demand a couple of things from him. At the moment when he was thinking about this, he noticed a frightened girl running below. The teacher recognized her, because she was one of the students at the academy. As it turned out, she didn't just run away, because she was attacked. Suddenly, Leo felt a whirlwind of troubles cover him like a shadow, and this meeting with the running student added a new round of mystery to what was already happening in the Tsenyu Abyss. First of all, he needed to assess the situation around him. The girl was truly exhausted and tired, and there was no guarantee that she would be able to continue this fight. Some strong guy remarked that she could stop running away, because you had nothing to lose if you played with him a little. Of course, she did not agree to such conditions and replied that he can only dream about it. He asked if the faculty of the four arts was just decoration for the academy. He asked her to be his good girlfriend and serve him properly, then he would think about letting her go. She said that even if she was in mortal danger, she would never let him touch Margaret. After these words, the man immediately flared up with anger and literally grabbed her head with one hand. With that touch, all her spiritual powers seemed to disappear, like magic taken away, and now she was defenseless against the rage of this man. The big man abused her verbally in every possible way, adding psychological torture to the physical threat. He said that since her face was smooth, it meant that everything else was smooth too, mocking her appearance in a derogatory manner. At that moment, Margaret turned to her older sister, saying that she seemed destined to be desecrated by this evil man. Leo, concerned and determined, intervened, saying that he would not allow further violence against her, and with honor and wisdom proposed a solution to this conflict. She was surprised because she was able to move, because she had never been able to do this before. He and the big guy swapped places, because now it was he who couldn't move. Without a doubt, Margaret immediately rushed at her opponent, unleashing a whirlwind of attacks, relying on her cunning and unpredictability. Margaret's powerful attack tore the man from his strength, and he flew several meters away, as if succumbing to the force of her uncontrollable impulse. Margaret's ferocity reached such a limit that she literally gutted the internal organs of her opponent, creating an atmosphere of indescribable power and danger around herself. While the insides of the enemy were revealed before Margaret's eyes, she herself continued to be in a state of shock, unable to comprehend the full extent of what was happening. The subordinate rushed towards the man, eager to find out about his condition, concern reflected on his face, as if every second was an important attempt to penetrate the mystery of what had happened. The girl, despite the chaos around her, immediately began to express gratitude for the help, although it was unclear to whom exactly she was addressing her words. Surprise gripped him, because the girl bowed as if to air, and it seemed that all the older sister's students were just as clumsy in their expressions. The man's subordinate predicted that Margaret would not go unpunished for what happened. She sharply noted that while she had given him permission to attack, provided he had the courage, she had also warned him that her spiritual energy was quickly running low. He asked her to stop pretending, claiming that he knew she had no spiritual energy left. Leo told her to take a step to the left and attack the acupuncture point near his kidneys, revealing a strategic hole in the enemy's defense. Without further ado, she immediately began to carry out the elder's instructions, emphasizing her devotion and determination in a combat situation. The guy looked confident in his victory, as if convinced of the strength of his skills and readiness to fight. It is not surprising that Margaret was extremely tense at this moment, succumbing to the excitement of battle. In the end, the teacher could not stand it and snapped his fingers, foreshadowing upcoming actions on his part, creating a mysterious atmosphere around himself. Margaret's opponent instantly stopped in mid-air, his body wrapped in chains, creating a picture of immobility and captivity in space. Margaret ordered Leo to end it immediately, emphasizing the inevitability and determination in ending the battle. The girl said that this man had information about the whereabouts of her older sister, and asked if she could end his life after she received the necessary information. In the eyes of the guy, it all seemed meaningless, but in order to preserve her poetic innocence, the girl had already burst out with her energy explosion and disappeared, like a wave running along the seashore. Since her sea of energy was destroyed, he assumes that her corpse is now being taken over by the insects of the Tsano abyss, devouring what is left after the fight. He invited her to kill him if she was determined enough, and together they would evaluate whether the formless border sect would free him. The teacher asked for what purpose the formless border sect and representatives of the northern lands sent him here, looking for an answer to the mysterious hints of events. Leo, seeing the guy's reaction, asked if he was really so famous that he aroused such interest. The girl immediately recognized him as the man who secretly helped her, the useless Leo, recognized by the academy. The man stated that he did not intend to play games and, having begun the interrogation, asked to answer quickly and honestly. After refusing to participate in the interrogation, the man decided that it was not worth wasting time on the ceremony, and simply resolutely decided on a quick murder. The man's gaze at this time was extremely cool and full of self-confidence, highlighting his ruthless decision. Margaret flushed with rage, because now it was difficult for her to know where to look for her older sister after the man was killed. Leo asked if she had anything that belonged to her older sister, preferably an item that she carried with her before the event. He ordered his being to immediately find the owner of this scarf, and the bird really began to look for her older sister Margaret, speeding through the skies in search of traces of her presence. Who could have foreseen that after escaping from her pursuers, she would find herself inside an incomprehensible cave, finding herself in a situation for which she was not prepared. Now that her sea of energy had been destroyed, this 20-foot hole would become her grave, and she knew that without protection she was powerless against the coming danger. She was only interested in one thing, whether Margaret was safe, for she realized that now, without a sea of /U200B/U200 energy, her sister found herself in a vulnerable position. Immediately after uttering these words, she heard her sister's voice calling her. Margaret screamed and asked if her older sister was downstairs. The girl was instantly delighted when she heard her sister's voice, because in this sound she found hope and confidence that her loved one was safe. Leo noticed that, of course, it was joyful to hear his sister's voice, but at the same time he noticed that the girl was seriously injured. The teacher asked Margaret not to rush and said that he would go down himself, calling for patience and warning against hasty actions. Margaret learned of the man's floating talisman, revealing a new element of mystery in its possession. It is not clear how and what exactly, but the man began to take all possible measures to save his older sister, demonstrating determination in the fight against danger. Of course, she also could not foresee what would happen now, remaining in the dark about future events. She could only understand that some bubbles had formed around her, being in a state where the details of what was happening remained unclear to her. So, among other things, these bubbles began to carry her somewhere, strangely, but obviously, towards the man and the girl. And then, after a split second, Margaret finally saw her older sister, experiencing a mixture of joy and relief in her heart. They were, of course, both happy to see each other and instantly burst into tears of happiness, overwhelmed by the excitement of reunion. The elder sister asked the girl to thank Leo for saving her, calling for gratitude for that. The teacher decided to get something to help the older sister, preparing to provide emergency assistance. He held an incomprehensible object in his hand, but still asked to heal his wounds first, preparing for an unknown intervention. As it turned out, it was a 5-element cultivation pill, implying the ability to enhance or restore the body's energy reserves. Leo received this pill absolutely free from one person, so he simply asked the girl to take it, showing kindness and helpfulness. The elder sister expressed her gratitude to Leo for such a legendary pill and began to use it, feeling signs of relief. Margaret, of course, helped her older sister at this time, trying to provide her with all the necessary support and care. And now, after a few seconds, the girl had already swallowed this entire pill, hoping for its beneficial effects. These pills truly deserve the title of treasure, as her leg healed literally in the blink of an eye, confirming their amazing properties. The older sister said that she would never forget Leo's kindness, confident that one day she would definitely repay him for the help he provided. Leo asked for what purpose they came to the Tsano Abyss, seeking to find out the reason for their presence in this mysterious place. At this time, the two girls began to look at each other and fell silent, as if both were paying attention to internal thoughts and preparing to answer. The next story will be about Lila, who was without a teacher. Lilu finally finished reading this page, giving her the feeling that she would soon reach a new level in her development or understanding. She decided to take up cultivation and held out her hand to some stone, beginning her training to improve her skills and strength. For some unknown reason, she suddenly stopped in her practice because she heard something that made her pay attention. Someone must have come here to cause trouble, taking advantage of the master's absence from the scene. Very unpleasant and mysterious events began to occur outside, causing concern and misunderstanding. Just then, the vice professor of animal domestication appeared, ready to grant punishment or take control of the situation. Lilu's daily routine included cleaning the master's room, keeping the learning space neat and tidy. She found a basketball in his room and thought it was some kind of master's treasure, creating a kind of mixed image. After Leo learned the true reasons for the girls being in the abyss, he asked if it occurred to them to go to the place where the Demon King lived, as if offering them this option. Margaret said that it was her fault. She sought to find materials to repair her master's instrument and at some point became greedy, which led to this situation. Leo realized that something was wrong because it all seemed too strange to be considered true, and began to doubt the authenticity of the circumstances presented. Leo began to explain that they were being chased by a level 9 ice silkworm from the outskirts, and if her words were true, then the people from the Formless Border sect were also following him, posing a possible threat. Perhaps she misunderstood something, perhaps that ice and silkworm was not a supreme demon, but a demon spirit in the molting period, or even a demon king who took on a human form during the cultivation process. Margaret, curious, asked Leo if he was going to catch the worm. He informed them that they should go to see if he would return before the sun reached its zenith. At this time, the vice professor importantly announced that Left must leave, emphasizing that something important and exciting awaited him outside the classroom. After a long time of waiting, tensely awaiting the moment, the door finally, with a long-awaited creak, slowly swung open, revealing the mysterious world behind it. Lilu apologized, saying that the master was absent at the moment, and offering to convey to him the words of the elder. The vice professor, with confidence in his voice, asked her to show respect and bow to him, emphasizing the importance of this moment. Explaining that she should show respect in the presence of the elders, the vice professor insisted that she kneel, emphasizing the importance of this gesture. Lilu again expressed her apologies and claimed that she had never heard of such a rule. She asserted that her master was not trash and boldly asked the elder to behave more respectfully. Of course, the girl's behavior greatly angered the man, and he noted that this was a manifestation of arrogance. He lost patience and decided to resort to force her to kneel. Lilu, in turn, was not going to succumb to the man's manipulations so easily. She stated that she had done nothing wrong and therefore had no intention of kneeling. It is not clear with what logic. The man argued that such behavior was wonderful, causing others only more bewilderment and dissatisfaction. Deciding to see how long she could keep her mouth shut, he remained watching, creating a tense atmosphere of anticipation. He then began to advance on the girl, urging her to kneel. After prolonged and painful attacks, the man suddenly stopped and expressed his surprise at something. As it turned out, the girl remained safe and sound after such strong attacks from the vice instructor. Although her eyes reflected sadness and tears, her spirit was unusually strong despite the difficulties and trials that she had to endure. By choosing not to kneel, she literally burned through her level with some serious determination. He had just finally finished off this woman with one powerful blow, considering that it was unacceptable to leave her alive. The master gave strict instructions to his student to destroy the girl. The student, executing the order, felt the weight of responsibility for his actions, but knew that disagreement was unacceptable. The man declared that they would do whatever they were told, and asked the student if he, too, was going to ignore the order of his master. Who would have thought that such an insignificant master could teach such a humane student? She said everything she wanted, adding that if she survived today, she would do everything possible to make him regret it in the future. The guy announced that his master demands respect for himself, and if she bends the knee, admitting her mistake, all disagreements will end right here and now. She shouldn't risk her life to protect her pride. He laughed good-naturedly and asked why she needed all this trouble. Lilu stated that all this talk is useless, and if the master wants her dead, then let him just kill her, she will never beg for mercy. He immediately apologized to her, explaining that he had no right to ignore the order of his master. And just after these words, the student was literally attacked by a horse. The force of the blow was so overwhelming that the student was thrown a considerable distance, like a puppet abandoned by an invisible hand. They could only watch the guy's lifeless body, realizing that events had taken an unexpected turn and something serious had happened. Lilu immediately began to worry and nervous, concerned about the unexpected turn of events. The man remarked that it was not surprising that Leo was possessed by this horse, since he was a real demonic beast. So it was, from the outside this horse resembled a powerful and free man, ready to tear to pieces anyone who stood in his way. Lilu immediately began to scream, although the reasons for her excitement remained unclear. The master explained that he himself attracted the attention of this horse and asked not to blame him for the consequences. The man said it was time to teach him some manners and fix the situation. All this time Lilu was begging to stop this senseless fight. However, the horse finally decided to attack the man to put an end to it all. The master, imbued with determination, was ready to put an end to this beast who was tired of testing him forever. The fire of determination burned in his eyes, and he intended to end this battle once and for all. Unfortunately, at that moment the magic ball inside the horse split. Lilu watched all this time, and, of course, it was painful for her to watch what was happening. She just caught the moment when the horse landed after the man's attack. The beast was indeed practically dead, barely breathing and sluggishly reacting to its surroundings. Lilu believed that hope was not lost yet, and that this body was just the beginning of the cultivation process. She only had one chance to strike the decisive blow. The girl said that it was better for the man to kill her right here and now, because if she survives, she will definitely make him answer for what he did. She knew she needed to anger him even more to carry out her plan. She tried to provoke him into attacking and asked him to come even closer. The master said that he would still take advantage of her wish. Lilu realized that it was at this moment that the right distance had been created in order to deliver her blow. At this distance, the moon fairy's wheel will certainly hit the man directly. She sacrificed her level precisely so that she would have the opportunity to defeat him. The girl literally went straight through the master. Luckily for the man, he was prepared. If it weren't for the protective treasure he took with him, he might already be dead. Since she was able to fight Song and Jackson alone, that means she still has some tricks up her sleeve. He should get rid of this girl immediately, otherwise she may cause a lot of problems in his life. This fragile body had exhausted all its spiritual power, unable to even awaken even a tenth of the power of the moon wheel. The master nevertheless decided to act and finally finish off the insolent girl. He resorted to using some kind of lasso held in his hands. At first he tried to get away from the girl using a lasso, but, having no success, he finally grabbed her by the neck, showing determination to stop her resistance. Lilu was sure that her master would make the man pay for all these events. For a long time she remained away from the mortal world, relying only on herself. Her arrogance and contempt for people seemed funny to her. The master decided long ago to finish off Leo along with Lilu. In his eyes, Leo was always a non-entity. But then, unexpectedly for everyone, the horse suddenly stood up and began to move. Lilu shouted at him to stay away and leave immediately, warning him not to approach her or the horse, as if sensing the inevitability of something terrible. The master announced that first they would kill the girl, and then he would catch him and teach him how to do it. Lilu could only utter the word master, after which she began to lose consciousness. Then she remembered Lef's words, "If anyone from the animal taming faculty causes trouble, let her use the talisman." The words that Leo had no strategy confused the master, but suddenly he realized that through this test, Leo could develop his own unique strategy and learn from the situation. The man could not understand how this piece of paper would help her. To the master's surprise, they actually managed to hit him, and he flew several meters away. The man was at a loss, not understanding what was happening to him at the moment. The blow was so strong that the master himself did not even expect such an unexpected turn of events. At this moment, Lilu began to call on her bird assistants, turning to them for support. Only this time it was not a group of small creatures, but one huge and furious bird. The master viewed all this as absurd and could not understand why such an inexplicable scene was happening. When he saw this huge bird approaching him, his gaze became filled with fear and horror. After a split second, the creature finally struck the master. All that was left of the master was his small watch, which he held in his hands, and even that was almost completely broken. A student immediately ran up to him to find out if he was okay. The man's gaze was, frankly, very awkward and as if devoid of life. Of course, his student immediately rushed to the rescue. The master asked the guy to shut up and said that this girl had destroyed his protective treasure. He emphasized that he would not leave this unattended, and asked him to bring him a pill of the 5 elements. Of course, he immediately began taking the 5 element pills, aiming to finally defeat Lila. The master personally refused to believe that an instructor like him couldn't teach this girl a lesson. He promised Leela that he would finish her right here and now. Lilu felt despair begin to overwhelm her, but at that moment Lef's words surfaced in her memory. Deciding to use the last chance, she began to act. She just couldn't understand why he didn't attack. As it turned out, it was at this moment that Master Leo seemed to appear. Oddly enough, he grabbed the man and stopped him right before he attacked the girl. The master asked the student to remain silent because her heart was seriously damaged. Ali was very angry that the master took advantage of his absence to mock his student. Of course, he could not forgive him for such behavior towards his student. Then the shadow version of the master simply started beating and abusing the man. He is at the highest level of skill, even ranking 5th among all the academy instructors. There was only one thing that bothered him all this time. Why can't he beat someone he calls light-level trash? At that time, the master's student simply watched the whole incident, because he had no choice. The student asked Leo to stop beating him. The master decided to use a technique called the golden bell, and the student was immediately, strangely enough, locked in the golden bell. And this was all against the backdrop of how Shadow Leo continued to beat the master. The man treats him, but at the same time continues to beat him. This was the peak of suffering. Leo said that the two of them should be grateful to a certain man, because if it weren't for him, they would already be dead. He still gave his master to the student and told them to get out. The student began to give him some kind of pill and told him to just eat slowly. But the master was not ready to leave because he was sure that Leo had an advantage only because he took him by surprise. Lilu began to apologize to the master because she could not properly protect the peak. He asked her to stop saying nonsense because she did everything in her power. The master was very surprised when a certain bird began to fly away and asked it to stop. For many years he tried not to leave the peak and not provoke others. In response to this, he did everything possible to take it away from Leo, and now he tried to kill his student. As it turned out, the man had a bloody talisman, which he decided to use against men. This talisman was capable of turning a person into a pool of blood, destroying even their souls. Of course, Leo couldn't just let the man leave after everything he'd done. They are both instructors at the academy, and for using the bloody talisman against him, Leo will be subject to divine punishment. He immediately laughed at the words about divine punishment and said that he would be his divine punishment. All that was left of the master was his clothes, and they didn't look very good, as if the days he had passed had left their mark on every stain and torn seam. Margaret and her sister were scared to death by this incident. Leo told the student that he did not want to do this to the master, but he forced him. The student asked Leo to wait and listen to him. His words contained an urgent request that required careful attention and a balanced response. The man's gaze was filled with sadness and, at the same time, anger. His eyes reflected stories of pain and resentment. And at this time the student began to sob, oddly enough. Leo said that he is not like his master. Let this be a lesson for him. Don't encroach on what belongs to others. Next time he looks for a teacher, let him choose a more worthy person. He didn't dare tell anyone about what happened here today, and let him not forget to take with him his older brother, who was still kneeling at the gate. Margaret and her sister were still in shock from what was happening. The events unfolded so quickly. Margaret said that they had to go, so as not to disturb the couple. In the end, they only said that one day they would certainly return this debt to them. But Lilu didn't think that they would drop in on them. The idea of the constancy of someone else's attention seemed to her something incredible and distant. And then Leo realized that he finally needed to change his clothes. As it turned out, an incomprehensible creature had been watching them all this time. Lilu asked the master if he noticed any signs in the skies. The girl was absolutely right, because she believed that someone was watching them. Her intuition sensed invisible eyes in the shadows. Some man was at a loss, because he could not understand how they dared to kill his other nephew, and there was not even a trace of him left. In the Cave of Solitude, the man told his subordinate that he knew what he must do in the next great test. The elder in charge of the punishment hall reported that preparations for the punishment had been completed. At this time, the master returned with something special that he had brought with him during his journey. He caught this snow cicada especially for the girl, but it still remains in its larval form. He originally wanted to find a catalyst for her development, but stumbled upon her by accident, so he decided to bring Leela. The snow cicada larva is at the level of the spirit king, but in the presence of the master, it behaves obediently. The snow cicada has the attributes of water and thunder, as well as a good level of cultivation. If the girl manages to conclude a contract with her, this will play an important role in her future cultivation. Queens are majestic and proud creatures. In her past life, Lilu was not able to take control of at least one of them, but the master so easily gives her this opportunity. She immediately began to thank him for such a generous gift. The great test at the academy is already close, so the girl needs to take advantage of this opportunity to strengthen her cultivation. Leo was confident that he could easily pass the upcoming test, especially if this cutie was nearby. The girl asked if this would raise any objections. He is able to reduce the level of candied snow cultivation to the level that it is allowed to be tested. Leo only wondered if this creature would agree to have its cultivation level suppressed. This time he will help her, but since this is her first experience, it may be a little painful. Leo began the process of suppressing the cultivation, slowly and carefully directing the flow of energy to achieve the desired result. She couldn't understand why her cultivation level, on the contrary, was beginning to increase. Within a few seconds, everything was ready, and Leo was pleased to note that the cultivation suppression process had completed successfully, granting them the opportunity to further cooperate. And a girl began to crawl out of this cocoon. Lilu was amazed at such an elegant performance. A girl named Ashlyn, but they could call her Little Dream, came out of her cocoon. She hoped that they would become friends. Lilu was amazed at how sweet and charming the girl was. She thought that the creatures and spirit tribes would look like monsters, but she met Aislinn and her idea turned out to be wrong. Aislinn asked if the girl wanted to say that she had met other royal-level spirits before. And then Lilu realized that she had accidentally given out this information. The words fell from her lips without waiting for permission. The girl began to say that she simply saw the image in the books, trying to explain her words and smooth out possible misunderstandings. She was lucky that the master did not hear anything at that moment. In this case, the man decided to leave Little Dream with Lilu. Of course, Aislinn was happy with this decision in her favor. It was already quite late, and the girl believed that they needed to rest. It seemed that Leo was right. The people from the formless border sect were not chasing Little Dream, but were looking for the jade pendant that she was guarding. Even the system could not analyze this jade. He was wondering what kind of thing he had in his hands. The system told the man that if his student could reach a new level and take first place in the upcoming test, he would receive many useful things. The prospect of success in the tests activated the system's capabilities. Leo didn't know that the system could give tasks. It seemed to him that it was simply counting chopped wood, hiding its capabilities under the guise of a simple counter. Leo couldn't understand what had happened to this creature, his disbelief reflected in his surprised gaze. Well, she asked him to be sewn on, or he accepts this mission. Her words contained a shade of demand or proposal, leaving room for choice. However, to him the reward seemed rather worthless, although he could always pass it on to Lil. The value of the reward remained in the realm of practicality and choice. Lev then went into his room. Returning to a private space gave him the opportunity to think about what was happening. A few seconds later he was already fast asleep. Fatigue from previous events quickly consumed his consciousness, taking him into a world of deep sleep. Right at that moment there was a girl in the magic ball who was also in the man's room at the same time. She said that, unfortunately, this was still not enough. The offer of a magic ball did not meet her expectations or requirements. And then she completely stretched her hand towards the man, wanting to establish a connection between the worlds. She really wanted to see each other again. The energy of her desire was directed in a certain direction, as if there was something important for her on the left. Lilu told Chernyshев that she had done a great job today. Her words sounded with pride and satisfaction from the work done. After 5 days, a certain group of people heard a pleasant aroma ahead and realized that someone was cooking there. As it turned out, it was Leo who was actually cooking at the time, the amazing smells emanating from his culinary efforts inviting everyone to an unexpected feast. Leo asked Lee, the instructor, if he was also interested in playing fry with wild creatures. Leo had a few minutes to talk about the day he was saved from wild creatures. He calls it a game, although to be honest, he's not entirely sure what that weird-looking bird was talking about. He is located not far from the testing site of the academy, and they could not understand what he was doing here. His presence puzzled them. Leo explained that he was simply frying his food and did not feel that he was interfering with the test in any way. The instructor thought it was very reckless. He stated that a person like him did not deserve the title of instructor. The animal taming faculty had come to an end. The stranger didn't know why, but the two older brothers suddenly went to cultivate behind closed doors. Someone was thinking deeply at this time, trying to find an answer to his question. As it turned out, he was simply staring at Lila. The sudden attention caused surprise and bewilderment. The guy said that the girl was quite talented, and he was sorry that she decided to become a student and not a colleague. He finally talked to the girl and introduced himself as Michael from the extermination department. But she immediately began to run away. In the literal sense of the word, something about his appearance caused an unexpected reaction in her. She came to Leo, but he was busy at that time. At this point, they began to quarrel, while Michael watched it all. He couldn't understand how she dared to ignore such a courteous and attractive guy. At that moment, someone approached Michael from behind and put his hand on his shoulder. The chief extermination instructor told him not to worry about some woman. At this time, some guy urged everyone to look, because there was a faculty of 4 arts. Margarita was clearly a little frightened by the fact that everyone looked at them sharply. The attention of those around her created discomfort for her. Luna, the instructor of the 4 arts faculty, greeted everyone and invited them to join their group. The head instructor tried to talk to the girl, but he was clearly very nervous. His excitement was evident in his behavior. An instructor from the faculty of the 4 arts came to Leo and thanked her for saving her student. Leo asked what she was talking about, because he could not understand. His misunderstanding created confusion in the conversation. The man introduced Lila to Luna. The chief instructor of the faculty of extermination was angry after such an action by the girl. Her action caused him irritation and indignation. At that moment, a certain man asked for silence so that he could say something. He demanded that all eyes look only at him, his demand creating an atmosphere of tension. This time the exam will be held in a secret area, and now he will announce the rules. It was the elder of the building. The time limit is 2 days. The rating will be determined based on the final number of points they score. In addition to killing monsters and searching for treasures, they can receive points stolen from other participants. However, if it became clear that they were intentionally putting the life of another student in danger, they would be immediately disqualified. Maintaining safety was of the utmost importance. One of the houses was clearly terrified by such a creature in front of them, his facial expression betraying fear and worry. The elder of the building announced that the test had begun, his words signaling the beginning of an exciting event. Members of the extermination faculty were to immediately go inside and take up the most advantageous positions. Lilu informed the master that she was leaving. Her decision was made with determination and readiness for the test. At the very top of the hill, she didn't feel like leaving. Right at that moment, Leo said that the girl has great talents and is also very hardworking, no worse than others. In addition, she is Leo's student, so, apparently, she will easily cope with this test and win. Her little dream is immersion in everyday life, when she happily wraps herself in her own cozy cocoon. Kind, friendly and happy to help others, that's how she is. She loves to eat and appreciates every piece of food, not tolerating unnecessary food losses. Hardworking and honest, her little dream is admired by everyone around her. In the midst of events, strange and unknown phenomena occurred in a secluded area, leaving everyone around in complete bewilderment. In a world where every breath seemed to be his last, the unknown guy rushed about, trying to evade the inevitable fate that pulled him to the brink of life and death. People said that the rune faculty was just a joke, and he couldn't understand where this monster came from. Incredibly, it seems that Lilu was involved in this, as unfortunate as it may seem. He was scared, covering his face with his hands, and in a hot whisper asked her not to approach. Fear was in the air, enveloping both of them in the shadow of an unknown danger. The answer was that she resorted to using some kind of object to defeat the guy. Lilu was ranked 47th in the challenge and the number of enemies she defeated was 6. To succeed in this test, she had to put in extra effort. Placing some creature on her head, she told her to stop doing this, because she could easily communicate in a normal way. It turned out that Aislinn was behind everything, simply in the form of some kind of creature. She turned to her with a questioning look and asked, without hiding her curiosity, if there was anything interesting or significant in that direction. Not paying much attention to the supposed unimportance, the girl nevertheless decided to go and check it out personally. Looking into the distance, she felt that something powerful could happen at any moment. For some time, an obviously poisonous toad rested comfortably on someone's arm. It turned out that this toad, surprisingly, led 2 strangers along a mysterious path. In the academy square, students watched the tests closely, looking at the screens with excitement and interest. Everyone present could not understand why Leo's student had such incredible power. Luna asked Leo if she was afraid that her daring actions would attract the wrath of the students of other houses. Those who have true power find confidence in their strength, so Leo didn't worry about it. Luna completely agreed with the man's statement, recognizing in his words a grain of truth that sounded in harmony with their common beliefs. Luna remembered the previous left-hander she had stored in her memory, and the imprint of his outstanding traits and character remained in her memories. She noticed that he was still the same Leo as 10 years ago, the one who held the heavens on himself and carefully monitored this world. Leo was slightly embarrassed, shrugging his shoulders, and added that these were just his usual worries, which in no way set him apart from others. And just after these words, someone suddenly decided to use the bell he was holding in his hands. And in the blink of an eye, something went wrong with the screen, and the image disappeared. The light faded, forcing everyone around them to look around in alarm and bewilderment. The elder of the building raised his hand, calling for silence, and said that it was necessary to clarify the current situation a little to better understand what had happened. They will not be able to restore communication from this side, since the source of interference is in a secret area. They will have to send students there, including from the Faculty of Creation, to identify and eliminate the causes of the problem. It seems that there are still those who are not ready to give up, despite the current situation. Since this was an emergency, they had to hurry to deal with the situation quickly. Subsequently, they should not blame him for not intervening, since the situation required a quick and prudent solution. Lilu inside still continued to fight for victory, even in conditions when uncertainty and difficulties arose around her. Her forces were almost on par with this enemy, creating an intense struggle on the verge of equality. A certain creature lay helplessly on the floor, devoid of strength and energy. The woman said that Lilu has very talented abilities, but what a pity that her life would end long before her full potential was revealed. Lilu asked if they were afraid of what she had already done before they arrived. The stranger clarified that the master inadvertently touched someone who was outside the zone of insults, and expressed concern about the possible consequences of this misunderstanding. She refused to believe that the Academy's punishment room could do whatever it wanted without being subject to rules and restrictions. The girl asked me not to tell Lil that she hoped to get out of here alive. It couldn't be that his sword cut her lightning in two, an incredible intervention that pulled her out of danger. She suddenly felt that the time had come to end this battle, as if an inner voice was telling her that further battle would not lead to anything good. They were much stronger than her, and her own efforts in the fight were just an attempt to delay the inevitable. Turning to her hope, she asked the little dream to help her, realizing that she simply could not bear to destroy her spiritual development again. It actually seemed to work as the girl's gaze changed dramatically. Suddenly there was a colossal explosion. The boy again resorted to using his sword to create a cut, but this time he was unlucky, because his sword simply broke. All this became possible thanks to the help of a little dream. She snapped that they were no match for her, and invited them to get out of here if they valued their lives. Transforming from a human, she looked in such a way that no one could understand that this was the Spirit Queen in front of them. Ashlyn announced that Lilu was now under her protection, and if their lives were important to them, let them disappear from here. It turned out that she had grown to a huge size to intimidate the enemy, and, moreover, she did not want to reveal her true form to them. Lilu hesitated, not sure whether to give them freedom, because shadows of doubt flickered in her eyes. In any case, it's time for them to move, because the treasures are in that direction. A few days ago, strange things happened. The little dream actively supported the girl in her cultivation, a magical companion that filled her heart with strength and determination. It was at this moment that Ashlyn sought to help heal her wounds by extending a hand of kindness. All this time Lilu asked only to be surrounded with tenderness. The girl was in search of a little stimulation that would awaken liveliness and inspiration in her, a spark that ignites a bright fire in her heart. Then some powerful radiance began to emanate from the building. Secret energy penetrated into every corner, illuminating everything around. Somewhere in the forest, among the demonic race, a guy, for some unknown reason, decided to help his partner get out of an ice trap. She must survive, because he did not know what to do without her. Her presence was not only support for him, but also the meaning of his own life. He felt that some kind of bloodlust arose next to him. He was convinced that such crimes could not go unpunished. The fire of justice burned in his heart, ready to illuminate the path to punishing the villains. The same Shadow Leo told the guy that the next time they intend to kill someone, let them remember that they too must be prepared to face their own risk of life. Some creature was flying, closely observing everything that was happening. It was an invisible witness to secret events. Since he gave free rein to his team to act in this way, now he should not be surprised if he is blamed for his cruelty. Leo was ready to begin the punishment, his determination integral to the dark tension in the air. This was his last warning. Don't let him force him to take extreme measures. The man was bleeding, experiencing unbearable pain, his body turned into an arena of suffering. In a secluded cave, the elders asked the Supreme One if everything was alright. He had difficulty realizing how much of the lost mystical energy he had managed to regain. In the cave of the demonic ruins, Luna asked if the girl knew where to go. She is not even capable of this. She is generally silent in battles, tired of endless flights. She wanted to find the treasure as quickly as possible and go to a well-deserved rest. Lilu was tired of the continuous reproaches from the girls. Each of their glances were directed at her with a call to explain something or apologize. If Ashlyn hadn't forced her to go looking for the treasure, they might not have been in this predicament. The girl's words angered Luna, causing a surge of indignation and discontent in her heart. Lilu sensed that the girl seemed to be in a fight mood, hinting at a possible confrontation. Lilu resolutely began to attack the girl, deciding that the right moment had come to strike back. At that moment it turned out that, on the contrary, she saved her from a creature that had crept up from behind. If not for the girl's intervention, Lilu would have been 2 steps away from the end of her existence. The girl warned that one should not regard them as simple small demons. If they attack in large numbers, even the Demon King would be uneasy. Poisonous larvae live exclusively in dark spaces. In this case, apparently, the treasure should be hidden right here, in the dark spaces where the poisonous larvae live. Lilu was ready to finally look at this treasure. Her whole life was heading towards this moment of revealing secrets and mysteries. In addition, this place turned out to be extremely familiar to the girl. Lilu asked to come back, because she had a bad feeling. Ashlyn did not want to listen to her request and used the cut of the icy skies, a magic blade, to continue her path deep into the mysterious expanses. This technique was truly powerful and impressive, its power passing through space, leaving an echo behind it. Being under her protection, the girl could not only have fun, but also feel completely safe. Aislinn was extremely annoyed to see that there was not a single scratch on the door, her powerful blows being useless in front of the unknown force. She was sure that she was just fooling around, and now this creature could see the true power of the Spirit Queen. The fire of steadfastness flared in her eyes. Once again she launched an attack against these mysterious doors. Aislinn could not understand what she was doing wrong, because it should have worked. The secret of the mysterious doors remained impenetrable. But she again did not notice a single scratch on the door. Her powerful blows were ineffective in front of the mysterious defense. Of course, Luna was furious, an internal fire of indignation flaring up in her heart. She couldn't understand who came up with the idea to make the abandoned ruins so dangerous by filling them with poisonous larvae. At that moment, Lilu noticed a hand mark drawn directly on the stone, an invisible signature left by a mysterious wanderer. Oddly enough, she offered this hand exactly as she should have done, feeling that it was part of the clue. And immediately after that, something unusual began. Mysterious forces began to interact with the outside world. Aislinn couldn't understand why the hell the door had decided to open now, and Lilu herself could not understand what was happening here. She found herself in a whirlpool of mysterious events. Of course, the Queen of Spirits was glad that the doors were finally opening the way to the long-desired revelation. Lila had the feeling that she had seen this place before. Memories of the past flashed through her mind. Ashlyn must have found the key to his legacy, revealing long-forgotten secrets and mysteries. Only after some time did Lilu finally remember what this place was. It was a demonic aura, the dark energies of the past permeating every stone of this place. She created this sealed place in her past life, being in the Mahayana stage, embodying her powerful demonic powers in it. Lilu did not have time to tell Aislinn not to touch this artifact, sensing that its influence might awaken something unwanted. It was only after she had smashed that owl that she heard the girl's words, the sounds of warning coming too late. The doors immediately began to collapse, and it is completely unclear for what reasons. The flying island immediately began to be enveloped in some unknown magical force. Mysterious spells interacted with its structure. One of the participants was scared to death by this situation, fear paralyzing his soul, making every moment painfully long. He saw a certain creature in front of him and could not even explain what it was. It was reported from above that an unexpected anomaly had arisen in a secret area. The teleportation barriers were not working, and something unknown had interfered with the usual order of things. He was afraid that the demon emperor of the body unity stage had appeared there. The looming threat not only concerned their safety, but also the integrity of the world as a whole. He told them to stop panicking and remain calm. They were joined on screen by the director, who asked about the situation in the ruins, wanting clarification on what was happening. A large number of students are unable to leave the ruins and the teleportation barriers are no longer accessible, with mysterious circumstances keeping them inside. The elder told them to send simple teleportation barriers inside. They must save all the students trapped inside and are responsible for the safety of every soul. Just then Margaret, the eldest sister, arrived. Luna asked not to be afraid, because she was here, and suggested taking a deep breath and calming down. Leo asked if Lila had been seen, concern for her safety laced in his every word. Lila wanted to leave, but she was told no, and she remained on her star planet. Students who moved here instantly found themselves close to their mentors. This suggests that Ashlyn and Leela may be at risk. The mysterious being spoke, calling on the world to stand in awe of its greatness. The demon emperor suddenly appeared before them, announcing that he had returned. Claiming that this world belonged to him, he radiated confidence and declared his undeniable power over everything around him. Aislinn could not comprehend the reason why the demon emperor was sealed in such a hidden place. The demon emperor looked at them with disdain and asked what such pitiful human beings were doing here. She was surrounded by the feeling that this was the greatest misfortune, as if fate had decided to play a treacherous game with her, pouring misfortune on her path. Aislinn couldn't figure out if it was all happening again, or if this was just another round of the mysterious turn of events. Asking Leela to refrain from acting, she argued that such a passive approach would be the best support from her friend. The appearance of the demon emperor began to take on mysterious features, causing bewilderment and misunderstanding. Just a few seconds later, his presence filled almost the entire hall. Darkness and powerful energy blurred into every corner of the room. The creation of a similar race implied that Ashlyn was challenging him, expressing her determination to resist his power. This is what the Demon Emperor can do. He simply waved his finger, and Ashlyn had to use all her strength to block his attack. I ask Lila to run away from here, promising that she herself will somehow cope with this situation. She should have hidden, not allowing the majestic appearance of His Majesty to be desecrated by her unwanted presence. She needed to buy some time. The Demon Emperor seemed to have caught wind of their plan. Telling her not to worry, he insisted that none of them would be able to escape this place. Eileen noted that eavesdropping on women's conversations is dishonest, adding that such behavior is far from ethical. He contemptuously called them pathetic insects and warned that he could take their lives at any moment. Ashlyn remembered how the man cast a powerful spell on her that could only be broken through her heart meridians and blood essence. She pointedly asked the monster to repeat this action, and, then, she applied this powerful prohibition. This is how the interaction with the Demon Emperor began, with Ashlyn using her unique abilities to influence his powerful presence. After this, practically nothing remained of the Emperor except a lifeless body. From the moment the powerful ban was applied, he slowly and steadily lost his former strength, and ultimately, he was unable to resist, falling powerless to the cold floor. His appearance became truly dark, and Ashlyn was lucky to have that forbidden seal. In the end, he still found the strength within himself and tried to take some action. The inability to utter even a word did not prevent him from noticing that someone was approaching. Mysterious silhouettes emerged from the dark portal, shrouded in the fog of unknown worlds, and the Emperor could not see who or what was in this mysterious passage. And at that very moment a man appeared in front of him with a sword in his hand. Without further hesitation, he decided to attack. This battle is the harbinger of a legendary battle, remembered for centuries, where forces collided in an epic duel. The man said that their world has neither end nor edge. He then decided to resort to the spirit ball formation in preparation for an unusual tactic in the fight. In addition, he introduced a green curtain of 10 balls into the fight, creating an additional obstacle and increasing the difficulty of the fight. In pursuance of the order, the student was instructed to lead the instructors and head inside in order to save the remaining fellow students. Leo asked why the man wanted him to return first. It was explained to him that he was on the easy level, and if he went there, he would die, and he himself would have to remove his dead body from this world. Either he had already made many sacrifices for the well-being of the academy, and this time he was recommended to stay away. Luna began to say that Leo was also an instructor and she couldn't understand how he could remain calm knowing that their students were in danger. Deciding not to enter into an argument, he accepted her words and agreed with the proposal. He modestly asked not to overdo it, emphasizing the importance of maintaining balance and avoiding unnecessary effort. One of the students argued that Leo would definitely die, and no one would be able to remove his body from the world of the dead. The man asked him to relax, claiming that if anything happened he would help. Another mysterious creature appears in this exciting adventure. It could not determine who dared to set a trap for it. Despite this, it reported that the ban had been lifted and entered into resistance. He should have taken action instead of wasting time on idle walks. With the literal embodiment of the words, he revealed access to the mysterious black hole. It felt like he had the ability to manipulate her at will. Her body lay lifeless, surrounded by the rubble of destroyed structures. It turned out that she was not completely dead, because a maggot was about to fall out of her mouth. Oddly enough, this happened in just a split second. Incredible events began to happen, and everyone understood that despite the inexplicable phenomena, the girl would now return to life. In a few moments she was already completely healthy and alive. Time could heal her with the speed of magic. True, there was a feeling as if something was wrong in her body. She instantly sensed the discrepancy and turned around to see what could be wrong. How cruel it was to impose a ban there, but, fortunately, the shell of the snow cicada managed to protect her life. In some incomprehensible way, a small copy of herself appeared next to her. A miniature version of herself, without asking any further questions, suddenly rushed in some direction. A moment later, with a well-aimed movement, she led her to Lil. She was amazed to see Lila in such a state, and her eyes reflected bewilderment at the mysterious events. It is unclear what it was, but she had a strange sensation. Some kind of flower touched her eye. She should have ignored this because if the Demon Emperor defeated the Black Shadow, he would immediately go after her. With the restrictions lifted, this monster would not be able to detect her for a while, and after all, she was captured as a sole pet. There was no reason for her to stay. The girl recalled moments with Lilu, a smile, a cheerful laugh, conversations under the stars, but their separation inevitably surfaced, leaving a shadow on the past. In her memories there was a picture of how Lila took a new blanket with a smile, as if she always took it from her. I also remembered how the girl sincerely thanked her for her help, which opened up a new level of opportunities for her. Despite everything, she showed mercy and decided to help her. And at this very time, the demon emperor was fighting with the enemy. Or, more precisely, he did not fight, but simply ran away from an irreconcilable enemy. However, he was unable to escape completely and was struck by a mysterious lightning bolt. The attack turned out to be so powerful that its roar was probably heard throughout the entire forest. Under the force of this attack, the demon emperor could barely stay on his feet, barely maintaining his balance. His appearance, of course, remained far from the best after such forceful influence. It seemed to him that such powerful forces should not exist in this world, and the emperor could not understand who was standing in front of him. At this time, Shadow Leo was preparing for the next blow, increasing his strength for a new attack. Meanwhile, he remained silent, and the emperor asked if he was not worthy to know his name. And, without uttering a word, they continued their legendary duel, in which power and mystery collided. The guy tried to unravel the mystery of this shadow, which easily resisted the demon emperor. It was a mystery to him why this talisman needed Leo, and he tried to unravel this strange union of forces and fate. The man saw no point in retreating and invited Leo to rest aside. Leo took it upon himself to deal with this strange bird. The emperor has exhausted almost all of his demonic powers, but has not been able to inflict damage on this shadow. It seems that he is destined to die again. Above his head, he noticed an earth demon floating in the air. With the help of the earth demon lord, they will become just ordinary insects in his opposition. In the depths of the battle, when the strength has dried up, the time has come to return to reality, to leave this world of magic and demons, in order to regain one's physical form and leave the virtual battlefields. The emperor assumed that his enemy had decided to evade and leave the battlefield. Instantly, he launched a new attack to prevent the enemy from trying to escape from the battlefield. Oddly enough, this order was given by Leo himself. Aislinn recognized the aura of this monster by peering into its dark energies. And again, once again, inexplicable things began to happen, mysteriously confusing the course of events. It seems that the emperor has another powerful opponent. Of course, in any case, the emperor began to get nervous. Leo, rising from the shadows, looked questioningly at the emperor to see if he had said anything to the demon of the earth. He fought with his own shadow for so long, but never crumbled the mystery of his essence. The man again gave the order to attack. The talisman of communication, previously only available to immortals, became a mystery to the emperor, who could not understand how man used it to create clones with the power of Scourge. The emperor still could not understand who was standing in front of him and where he drew his incredible strength from. Leo said that he didn't need to know about it, but he should answer how he knew about this Western demon. The emperor assured him that he really knew nothing and begged him to stop the painful torture. Leo asked him to take his time and think carefully before giving an answer. Suddenly Aislinn appeared, excitedly announcing that Lilu was on the verge of death. Of course, first of all, he asked how this happened to his student. The girl burst into tears and began to say that it was all her fault. She could not properly protect Lila. Well, Leo realized that her current condition was caused by the emperor. The demon emperor said that Leo could not kill him, otherwise the earth demon would haunt him forever. At this moment, the demon emperor realized something and left. He opened the gates to the underworld, but emphasized that even if the supreme demon appeared, he was still doomed to death. Well, since he was the demon emperor, he couldn't bear the idea of his absurd death. In the end, he only said to the earth demon lord to save him. Well, his pleas for help were unsuccessful and the gates simply closed. As expected, in the presence of this man, even the demon emperor was powerless. Lilu felt great pain, something pierced her, and her scream echoed around her. It is unclear for what reason, but she immediately rushed at the man. Aislinn was worried about the man. She was worried about his fate and safety. His eyes immediately sparkled with an incomprehensible red hue. Something mysterious and mystical awoke in them. He said everything was fine and asked Lila to continue doing what was necessary. But the girl suddenly began to drink the blood of her master. At that moment a dark, inexplicable force erupted. With a smile, he asked if she had slept well, his voice filled with concern for her well-being. She began to apologize and say that she had crossed all boundaries. But the master assured her not to worry, because this was just a small remnant of his energy. In addition, he added that she does not pose a danger to the left. The system detected external interference and activated antivirus mode, at which point the flawless machine entered into battle with the threat. It's very strange, but the system constantly produced some kind of incomprehensible error. Something in the electronic pathways disturbed the harmony. The demon emperor did not expect that he would be so stupid as to sacrifice himself to save his disciple. As long as at least a small part of him remains in this world, he will live forever. After he restored his body, he would destroy them all, his voice filled with merciless determination. Even the emperor himself began to make some mistakes. The great machine of his power began to tremble under the onslaught of inexplicable forces. The system also decided to take part, and not just exist aimlessly. Night at Qinghuan Peak, student's room. Lilu's vision had deteriorated, and she urgently needed to reach a new level. This was the only way to restore her visual abilities. She began to remember all the moments with Aislinn and the Master. In her memory, every moment of warm memories became some kind of bright ray in a dark night. She decided to become stronger no matter what. The girl came out of the bathroom and asked Lila if she was still experiencing discomfort because of her eye. The girl joked and said that she was like a cyclops. Aislinn flew into a rage, hit the girl hard and told her to stop making jokes like that. This time it was her fault that she ended up here, so she asks her for forgiveness. Next time nothing will happen to her, because she will certainly protect her. The next day, all three of them chopped wood together. After Lila sneezed, the master asked if she had a cold, but Lilu said that it was just a slight runny nose and there was nothing to worry about. Perhaps Aislinn felt guilty that Lilu was in such a state. She simply could not hold back at that time, otherwise the demon emperor might have become suspicious. The man said that tomorrow he would take her to the faculty of the four arts. This was an important event that heralded a new stage in their adventures. The next day, the faculty of the four arts, a new stage began with a mysterious riddle waiting to be solved. Oddly enough, the two girls went straight to the sauna. Eileen said she risked her life to protect her and couldn't share her treasure with her. After these words, she simply threw the girl into her dirty laundry, and she started pretending that she was some kind of ghost. Lilu finally went to take a dip in the warm water, the moment of relaxation becoming a long-awaited prize for her. Aislinn was also busy at that time and was swimming right in the middle of the girl. Lilu literally felt the cold leave her body. The warm water became a miraculous healing elixir. The faculty of the four arts had the best hot springs in the landslide steps. Margaret was very tense about something. There was a tension in the air that was felt by everyone around her. The girl was asked to think much faster. In addition, they were informed that it was time to flee. As it turned out, they were not in the pool, but surrounded by some very strange creatures. Lilu, of course, could not understand who they were. They appeared before her as mysterious forces from an unknown world. These creatures had to remember that each person was given only one sip. There was some important rule in this. They are called starlings and are responsible for keeping the water clean. They, of course, went about their business while the girls were swimming. Lilu didn't remember ever hearing about them in her past life. Then the vice instructor of the faculty of the four arts came to them, his appearance bringing with it some seriousness and important news. Lilu was angry, because the vice instructor called her a hillbilly. His words hurt her pride and caused indignation. In addition, she called her an uneducated savage. One of the girls told Lil that she and her master were very similar. Now she wanted to show how starlings should be used. They all suddenly began to fall straight into the water. This moment became an unexpected and funny sight. She simply turned them into masseurs for her feet. Lila was asked not to take her words to heart. She was only taking her anger out on her, because they managed to defeat her master. Lilu saw with her own eyes how instructor Leo entered her room. Lilu couldn't believe these words. They confronted her with something inexplicable and incredible. Leo asked Looney if she thought this was somehow wrong. The girl asked not to pretend that he didn't want it. Her request sounded sensuality and a desire to be sincere. He did not deny this, but there was one thing. But there was some uncertainty in the air. He asked if it was weird to fry food indoors and if he thought it was somehow weird. But now it's different. Men and women alone in a room in the middle of the night, it's clearly strange. There's some tension in the air. Leo explained his behavior as a child by saying that he was simply immature. He asked the girl for the truth. She told him that she called him here for a reason. In this revelation there was a mystery ready to be revealed. Luna said that he had become very boring lately. She wants him to take her not from the faculty of four arts, but to train in the Fanghu Mountains. This secret area was only recently discovered, so she wants someone to take a look at this place. Although his current level of power is a mystery to her, she knows that it is much higher than what he demonstrates. Luna wants Leo to train in the Fanghu Mountains, where a secret area important to the faculty of the four arts has recently been discovered. She knew he would agree and called him the best of all. There was something unshakable in her confidence. He was still as cute as he had been when he was a child, she thought, and there was nostalgia and fond remembrance in that assessment. Lilu immediately took the master with her and said that they were leaving. Her decision sounded determination and steadfastness. Margaret and her sister immediately congratulated her, and, of course, she could not understand why. This scene will take place at Qinghuan Peak. As it turned out, at this time Lilu was training with a teacher, emphasizing activity and dedication to her training. Leo asked if she had learned the new science he showed her, but he must remind her that there is no need to rush, because he created this technique only recently. At that moment, Lilu looked at him with a very strange look. Misunderstanding was reflected in her expression. To the surprise of the master, she offered him to make a child. The girl began to kiss him passionately and ask if he liked it. In addition, she asked if she was worse than instructor Looney. He explained that he and she didn't have that kind of relationship and asked what she was even thinking about during training. She asked again if she was beautiful and received a positive answer. He explained that he preferred her to normal. His words sounded simple and lack of frills. Then she simply began to lose consciousness. This moment came suddenly and unexpectedly. Leo relaxed, because everything worked out for him. Satisfaction and relief sounded in his feelings. The next day in the Fanghu Mountains in the secret area, the place is chosen to continue the adventure and exploration. Leo began to explain that when they entered the portal, they would be directed to a random location in this secret area, so the first priority would be to determine their location. The teacher told the student not to save resources and suggested that they first meet in this secret area. Lilu didn't know what to do, because she couldn't even look him in the eyes. She couldn't believe that she did something like that to the master, losing control during training. The girl couldn't understand why she even cared about something like that, because she was here to become immortal. The man hoped that the girl's mental state was fine. His concern was a manifestation of concern for her emotional state. As it turned out, right at that moment someone attacked them. Events took an unexpected turn. Leo decided to take a look at it all, his decision sounding determined and ready for action. When the man and the girl went out into the street, they did not see a certain silhouette in front of them. The mystery of the disappeared figure arose before them. The elder of the Palace of Beatitude stood before them. This meeting promised something important and unusual. She betrayed the sect and their former vice instructor. She has no right to talk about it. In response, she asked if the girl dared to communicate with her in a similar tone. She believed that she needed to be taught a lesson. Her decision was one of determination and desire for education. She said that there was no point in resisting her, but that it would be easier to just kneel down and she would forgive her. At that moment, the girl saw an object right before her eyes. If you use the instrument so roughly, its spirit will howl. There was mystery and warning in this warning. As it turned out, the palace elder had lost control of her spirit weapon. She asked not to waste her energy, because now it is her flute. The spiritual weapon betrayed its master, voluntarily going into the hands of Leo. Now this girl remembered the man. His image again entered her consciousness. But the master at that moment was completely focused and did not pay attention to those around him. Deep concentration was inherent in his occupation. Everyone present was surprised that he could play musical instruments. Lilu did not know that the master was not only good in martial arts, but also in music. A new aspect of his multifaceted abilities was revealed to her. Although considering that he is a childhood friend of instructor Lung, there is nothing surprising. The palace elder asked that the flute be returned to her immediately. Well, Leo was ready for this attack and was determined to defend himself. He foresaw a possible attack in advance. The girl flew away from him a couple of meters, as if she had been blown away by the wind, and he remained standing, a little stunned. One of the elder's subordinates ran, trying to catch up with her. Fortunately, the elders themselves managed to catch up with her. For spiritual reasons, he decided not to use physical force and only ordered them to leave. Deciding to give her the flute, the elder promised to help upgrade it from a spirit weapon to an imperial weapon once they cleared out this secret area. He made it clear that in the secret area of full potential, they would definitely encounter new opportunities by working hard. Li Lu should take advantage of this opportunity. Ashlyn said that last night the monster dragged her into his room and asked if something had happened between them. A secret area had opened up and they had to grab their equipment as they set out on their journey. Leo reminded them that they should not reveal their whereabouts until they met. The man assured Lena that this time he would follow her and she should not worry that nothing would happen to her. In addition, they could count on the support of Aislinn, who would also join them. Usually, when using a pure heart talisman, a person's memories are blurred for a day, but apparently Leo made some kind of mistake. On the opposite side, some monster resembling a snake was waiting for them. Also at the same distance, another girl was using something similar to binoculars to better understand the situation. One of the girls was furious because she could not understand how someone dared to take advantage of her uncertain condition. They also head inside, not forgetting what their mission is. Together they chanted that blood and flesh are weak, feeling the blessed rebirth. Everything happened in just a few seconds, as it should. Leo finally went through the portal. Leo had a new task: to suppress the spirit of his ancestor. This foreshadowed the beginning of new adventures.